We already did a previous tier list of all the different aspects of game development and how fun and important they are, but unfortunately game development is kind of a giant field of a lot of different disciplines that you have to do. So this is part number 2, where we talk about some more aspects and roles and tasks and things like that that you have to do if you want to like do a start to finish game development. And we're going to be ranking them on 2 things once again. I know we get comments of like, oh yeah, you shouldn't put it on a tier list, but you should put this on like a quadrant and whatever. Tier lists just perform better because it's much more easy to look at. I know this isn't the best way to quantify.
Yeah, you just have to watch the video and see what we say about that thing.
Yeah, we're very biased at the end of the day, so keep that in mind. We're gonna stick to the tier list. It's funny to see you guys just lose your minds about like how we put something in a B-. But the goal is basically, like I said, simple. We're gonna talk about different aspects of game development and then talk a bit more about, hey, how important is it? How much should you care about it? Does it actually fun? Yes or no? I think the best way is just to start by talking about the one that everyone hated me for not mentioning the last time we did this video, sound design. Everyone was like, oh, you guys just play your games like completely mute or what? And it's like, no, there was a part 2 coming, guys. Here it is.
No, I play my games muted.
You made like fully muted?
I play our own games muted. You hate me for it. And I play League muted, and that's basically the only game I play right
But like music or every sound effect as well, like
dead
silence.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's a difference as well. You do play with sound effects, right? Okay, you're not a true psychopath.
No.
Sound design is a few things. It's music, it's sound effects, it's ambient. It's like you can go very deep into it. Honestly, we are not good enough at like F-mod and layering, whatever. I'm gonna leave that part out of it. Let's go 80-20 rule. You can already basically get 80% of the results by having background music and like for most of the main interesting things that happen in your game, like attacks and whatever, put in sound effects.
Do we see composing as part of this?
I'm gonna leave composing out of this because once again, it's also something similar to F-mod. I have 0 experience with this, and like you also have 0 experience. We're assuming you're downloading some music from Humble bundles or whatever and putting them into your game. I think sound design is actually fun and important.
I don't think it's fun, and I think it's important, but it can scale to higher importance or lower importance based off your game.
I think every game...
Yeah, it's important always.
Always.
Yeah, but what I mean is, for example, if you make a horror game, I think the sound design should be ×3 as good. Because I think there, for example, the ambience sound effects, the way you actually convey basically an empty room to your player is really important. While if you make a factory automation game, it's still important, but I think the sound design carries the game of that genre less.
I think it's just as important because you're focusing on different things then. You're focusing on making an auditory experience that is nice for like 8 hours non-stop. Because then you also still want to have custom, you know, sound design is one of the most like lauded things for Forge industry. I know we don't do that many good things, but people love the sound design on it because they were like, hey, actually, I want to listen to this game. It's really nice, it's really pretty. And it was just like a bunch of curated good music tracks. Like not just we take a bundle and throw the entire bundle in there, but it's actually like I listen to it all. I try to match it together. We add an ambient soundtrack as well. I think that's something that a lot of developers forget. Like, you know, the wind blowing and, you know, the birds whistling and all of that. Layer them on top and then have sound effects as well for the interactions. The sound effects we kind of fell off, but especially music and ambience was really good. And I think every game, this is something I actually give the advice of even, when you get started, first week of development of whatever new game or prototype you're making, put in music already. I think music is going to be so big at setting the mood where your visuals may not be good enough yet to really showcase where you want to go with the game. But music can do so much for, hey, is this going to be more of a happy, joyful kind of game? Or is this more of a dark and somber game? And it's like maybe your post-processing and all of that isn't fully up to spec yet, but the music already tells a lot to the player of this is what the game is going to be about. And then taking a step out of music, sound design, even more important, I think, in like sound effects, to give weight to everything basically. Like bad sound effects really stand out very quickly as well.
So where would you put it then?
I would put it at like an A tier.
Didn't we put art below A tier last time?
Yeah.
So you think sound effects are more important than art?
I think, so the biggest problem, I'm thinking A tier, the second thing we're judging on, of course, I think like an A tier importance definitely. Second thing is like how much fun is it and like how much time takes it. I think music is pretty alright. Sound effects itself, that is a different story. Finding good sound effects, one, is often hard. Second, if you want to do it well, you're probably going to have to make custom sound effects as well, and it doesn't mean you take your microphone and like go and record crickets or whatever, but like you take a bunch of different sound effects and you kind of kit bash them together, work in Audacity to make your own unique sound. It does take some time, but I do still think it's really worth it. For example, in Forge Industry, there's like the harbor, and it's like there's like a custom layered sound of, hey, the ship sails unfolding, and like you hear the bells of like, hey, the ship is leaving you, you see the seagulls. I think those are really solid things. I would put it a B.
Okay.
You can live with that?
Sure.
Okay, we're starting off great.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah, I think like this is also one that I feel like you don't have much opinion
I don't really
on,
care about
because
it.
you put like Minecraft oof sound effects. You just make the sound effect so bad that I am forced to
That's actually true,
it.
by the way. It's not a joke.
It's miserable. Okay, the next one I think we can talk a bit more, like you can talk a bit more about it as well because you have more experience with it, prototyping. Because we talked about coming up with the idea last time, but now we're actually, okay, rubber meets the road, let's start our engine. First, assuming we're prototyping and not just immediately making the full game, which I think is an important one. Second off, how fun is it? How nice is it?
I think we are horrible at prototyping at Bite Me. We basically don't do it.
I mean, you prototyped for Unicycle Pizza Time, no? At least we used the prototype textures.
What do you, yeah, okay. I had an empty level basically with like a ramp on it and was like, is that prototyping? I don't think so.
I think it is.
Yeah?
Okay. I think the good thing about prototyping is that it's always gonna be time limited. Like you're not gonna prototype for 3 months.
I think a lot of people prototype for 3 months.
I hope you're not spending 3 months on the same prototype, because then you're just developing the game. I think like, yeah, you can prototype for 3 months, but then like every 1-2 weeks you're making a new prototype, or even faster.
I hope so. I'm not sure. Most game devs have horrible time.
Oh God, how long do you spend time on prototyping?
Let us know.
If any. Either it's like 0 or it's 3 months and there's no in between.
I think it's quite important. We probably should do it more. It can also be fun.
Then why don't people prototype more often?
I think a lot of people actually do. I think we don't.
You think it's an us problem?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's an us problem?
Because we have a different mindset than most game devs. We think about, we want to release a game, and it's like, okay, we aim to release by this time. Most people start on their game and they're like, I'll see when it's done. Like if you ask,
but
if you walk around on
Gamescom. Doesn't mean that we couldn't prototype.
No, but if you, for example, walk around on Gamescom and you ask 10 random developers, I'm pretty sure 9 out of 10 say, I'm working on a game, I'm not sure when it releases yet. While we usually start from, this is by the time you want to release, this is our first vision, we implement that, that's not really our prototype because we quote unquote implement it for realsies, and then we iterate on it if it needs work, but we don't really prototype.
It is something I wanted to change in 2025, my New Year's resolution, of like, once we release like 2 games we're working on now, kind of just have like, maybe like a month or whatever, because we now can afford it as well. I think that's an important thing as well. Like we don't have time, we can't afford 3 months off.
Yeah, that's what I meant with, we think about a deadline and
wow,
we
want to... You worded it so badly then.
My point was, we basically think about a deadline and we say we release by then and we should make it, because otherwise Marnix has no food.
Okay, no, what I want to do more is like, after William releases his game, I kind of just want to tell him like, William, you have a month now, I want 4 prototypes by the end of it. Like every week, just make something. And then we'll see from there on what is something we like more, yes or no, and then move on for there. I think definitely it can be fun. I think it's also maybe the problem you get is that it can also be disappointing, where you have this grand vision of your open world RPG and then you throw in Synthi characters with default post-processing and it just looks kind of dumb. And it's like, I don't know if this is worth it, if this is like worth pushing forward to. I think it is very important to do. Don't overdo it. I would put it an A tier.
I would put it B-.
B-? You would put it underneath sound design?
Yeah. Because you don't ship a prototype.
No, but if you don't prototype, you might ship a shit game.
Yeah. And you learn from it.
You think it's better to ship a shit game with good music? I mean, that's kind of what we did with Forge Industry.
It kind of worked, didn't it?
I feel like this is a correlation causation thing.
No, I see what you're saying, but I don't think prototyping always means you make a good game. And I don't think not prototyping means you get a shit game. It just reduces the chance, I agree.
Yeah, you can
but
prototype,
I still think
bad games.
If you actually aim for releasing a game, making a prototype is not vital.
It
can
should
just
be a
help you.
short
It's an
period.
8. Yeah,
it should be like a week tops.
Yeah, and it's an 8. While, for example, music or like sound design is a requirement in my opinion. That's why I would put it below. But I still think it's important, so B-.
Sure. Oh God, the comments already are starting right now. Please direct your anger towards him. Next up, we have Mr. Beast, known for he's an influencer. Have you guys downloaded Honey yet? The all-new amazing app? Okay, I shouldn't say that.
Joinhoney.com/biteme.
That is not a link. We are not sponsored by them.
No.
What I'm actually
You probably should also Google why we are joking about this, by the way.
Why am I putting Mr. Beast here? Because influencer marketing is... I'm gonna
marketing, not becoming one.
No, of course not. What did you think?
Starting a YouTube channel?
No. But I'm talking about using other YouTubers to push your game, to market your game. Okay, we gotta go over that quick. I mean, sure, yeah. Is it fun? No. But it only takes like a day. That's the good thing.
And it's probably the most important thing.
It's
more important than making the game.
It's gonna earn you thousands of dollars, even more, probably. Guaranteed, honestly, almost guaranteed. If you send out 500 emails to 500 fitting influencers, you're going to make $1,000 from your game release. I can pretty much give you my guarantee for that. If you have a game and it's like, it's not an asset flip, blatant scamming. If you have an actual decent game, it doesn't need to be a good game, a decent game, you send 500 influencers an email of, hey, this is my game, here's an early build, go and play it. You're guaranteed getting $1,000 and you're probably gonna get like 10K even certain times and even more. It is such a force multiplier for your game. It's ridiculous. Like, yeah, you put in 1-2 days and it's gonna be kind of boring and tedious because you're just looking at like some Spanish family YouTuber who plays like horror games at 3 a.m. and it's like, what is this? But then you look at the fact that he has 2.5 million views or whatever, and it's like, yeah, actually I should send him an email. And that's like, impact you can have is just honestly crazy. I would put it, like, it's not fun, but it doesn't take too long.
I don't care that it's not. I would just put it S because I think even if it's not fun, and we rate on both points, it's like quadruple S in importance. And we just don't have that, so that compensates the not fun part. But like you guys often say, a good game sells itself. That's bullshit. That does not exist.
That time doesn't exist
If you have a mediocre game and you do proper marketing, you will outsell a good game without marketing. That's it. No arguments. You don't have to type in the comments. It's not necessary. It just
hate to him.
It's just the way it is. That's why I think it should be S, because I think you can make, like I said, make a decent game, do good on your marketing, you will sell. Make a good game, do horrible on your marketing. I mean, it's not fun, sure, but if you don't do it, you won't sell.
That's the way it goes, unfortunately. Okay, sure, S tier. I do think this is like, I stand by my point.
It's not fun.
Influencer marketing is the best thing you can do. If you want to know how the mails look, there's a video over there where I'll take a look at some of the emails that you guys have been sending out to influencers and talk about what are some good things, what are some bad things that you've been doing along the way. So yeah, S tier, I can live with that. Beast Gang. Next up, we have a world map. I know it's a very small icon, I'm sorry.
A world map.
Because of lore and story building and story writing and narrative design and all of that. And Thomas is already like, me, I want to sleep from this.
No, that's not. I just think it's fun. A lot of people will probably think it's fun. But I don't think it's super important. Okay, there are genres where it's super important, don't get me wrong.
I think for most games you are right though. I think for most games, or at least like, because it's so fun, it can be that trap of, I'm gonna write a super complicated story when all you needed was just like a one-pager of the princess needs to be rescued and she's really smoking hot, and that's it.
Yeah, look at Mario, look at Jump King. Like, why are you jumping to the top? There's a smoking hot babe at the top.
I mean, those are like specific. Like, you probably want a bit more story in your game as well. Like, yeah, if you're making narrative heavy games, it's very important. The question then is also, do ask yourself, should this be a game or should this just be a book or another form of interactive media or fiction, whatever? I think for story writing, like you said, it can be fun to like come up with the original world and to come up with your little towns and whatever. This is so much a trap that everyone falls into when they're gonna be making that open world RPG. You quickly realize though, I think that one, managing all of the information can be a pain. Like just having a good structure. This is a problem that writers have often, of like all of these little backstories and side stories and whatever, get them interlinked, and that's for a novel. Then writing enough interesting content, because like, yeah, you can start with, oh, this is Dragon's Reach and this is where there once was a dragon but he was slain. It's like, yeah, okay, you've decent writing, but carrying that out for a full game experience and it be good is a lot harder. I think that the good thing with narrative is it gives your game a reason of being. I think most games need to have a reason of being just to explain to the player, why am I playing this game? Why should I care about saving the princess, whatever? But I think if you're not really super experienced with this, it's almost better to forget everything about lore and narrative design and writing and just make a game. Even with horror games, I know for horror games there's like this whole subculture of like the super deep FNAF lore. And I know a lot of game developers are like, okay, I'm going to also have super deep lore in my horror game because then Matt Pat is gonna come out of retirement so he can make a video about my game. That is not unfortunately how it goes. I think you're better off just focusing on making a decent game once again and have the story just be like, oh, you don't want to get nommed by the big scary monster, ooh. And I think that is going to be like your 80-20 rule once again, more than enough for most of the games you're already making. Because bad writing is also sticks out like a sore thumb. Like you have these games sometimes where it's like, oh, you can collect these pages that is like extra background and it's written by a 15-year-old basically. And it's like, this doesn't, like you had this really nice polished game and then suddenly there's like this horrible writing that doesn't make sense at all. You're better off leaving it out once again.
What he said. I was a very long rant. Yeah. Well, not rant, but yapping.
How much have you considered of like, because I don't know how much you think about narrative and story in games, honestly.
I really love a good narrative and story when I play it. I don't want to write it myself.
Okay.
Like, what are the games I play? If I play a game, except League.
Like RPGs.
Yeah, so I care about story.
Yeah.
I care about the world, I care about the lore, I care about all those things.
But like game development, like right now we haven't really made a lot of games like where you needed a lot of lore.
No, that's why I don't think it's the most important thing. It can be fun, but there are a lot of games you can make without this aspect.
Or like without going super deep and super world buildy and things like that.
D?
I can go with D. Yeah, I feel like we're almost putting it too high. But I think if we put it in...
It's pretty fun for most people.
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty fun, but it's just a distraction, I think, at the end of the day. If you want to do world building, do D&D or whatever, I think first.
Write a book.
Write a book, write short stories, whatever, before you're like, now let me take this and just chuck it on the pile of all the other stuff you need to do for game development.
Next up is feel. Game juice, game feel, screen shakes. Sound effects kinda, but we kinda covered that already. Other things like VFX, like
jiggles, impacts, color flashes, light flashes, whatever.
Making your game feel reactive.
What this does is it makes the player actually, you know, feel like
impact.
Yeah, like what they're doing matters. I'm gonna link something in the description. It's from the developers of Dead Cells, or like the lead developer. He made like a site where you can very quickly toggle game feel things. Yeah. And just take a look for yourself. Game feel is something that's kind of hard to explain. If you don't have an understanding what game feel is, go in that site and just click and like enable, disable things. It's also like, for example, after you jump, you're actually slowed down for like half a second and whatever. Like those very, very small impacts of like the bouncing and whatever of these things that makes your game just feel nice. It feels like crisp.
Yeah. I think because this is sound effects are a subset of feel.
Yeah.
I think we should also rate it higher than sounds because there's more aspects and good game feel, even visually, can compensate a bit for a lack of good sound effects, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Not completely, but I think it's really important.
I agree with you. I would even say that you can take a bad game. Like a lot of bad games that I play from our audience, or like mediocre games, just lack feel.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them could be better by adding feel. The thing is, feel is like, I think it's kind of hard to get started with, but once you're started, it's easy. Because at the end of the day, you can kind of just go batshit crazy. And like, probably you don't want to tick every box of like, and screen shake, and a wobble, and like impact deformation, and everything. But you can do a lot, and it's like, once you've got the original setup, like initial setup, it gets pretty easy to add in more stuff and add more feel. And I think at the end of the day, game feel is what gives that dopamine drip feed of. Like, there's so many games on Steam, honestly, and I think like even Balatro and things like that, what they did so good is that permanent stream of dopamine drip fed to your brain with the feel, with how the cards move. Like famously, Hearthstone is one of those games that Hearthstone didn't get developed until, or like the whole thing surrounding Hearthstone, until placing cards on the table felt good. They focused so much on how does the draw animation work, how does the sound effects work when you click, the cursor, the movement, on that first, and then only once they knew that that was going to be good, because they realized this is the core of the game, placing things, and they had enough feel for that, then they made the rest of the game. We are once again not doing this.
I mean, we sometimes try.
We sometimes try, but we don't go. I think you can
We
go.
don't
more
go
balls
batch.
to,
Yeah, we don't
I think
go
you should
batch
go more
crazy.
balls to the walls. Honestly, I would put it in an A tier.
I can live with that.
You can live with that. That's good. Feel, by the way, is a Unity asset, but I'm very confident that there are similar. Like it's an easy Unity asset. I'll link it down below. But Unreal has similar things, and I feel like you can code similar things in Game Maker Studio and whatever. You can make this work in any engine, basically. We just use Feel because it's kind of known for game juice. Next up, this is one that we got requested by our audience in like the comments of the previous one, animations. It's actually one that
Creating or
just animating characters and things like that. It's something that I didn't think about, but it's also something that I don't really interact with that much. It's usually something that you do, the animations for a game. How do you feel about it?
I'm not the biggest fan of it. The thing is, mostly you get an animation, like it has to map properly on your model. It looks weird. Remember the character
arms.
where the arms are like
Super long for some reason.
So that's not like not of fun. I think. I also think it's such detail work to make it look well, and I'm not good at detail work.
I think it's also like, you know, like you need an animation, but I think it's like whether I get a walking animation from a pack or I do like a fully custom mocapped solution.
If you're an indie, please don't do that.
to like a certain degree, that's not going to be the thing that makes or breaks your game. You need to have a bare level of animation, I think, but I don't think you need to go too crazy with it.
No, I think the quote-unquote best thing you can do for animation is just go to the asset store, look at packs that have the movements you like.
Assuming you have like humanoids.
Yeah, assuming you have humanoids.
What about stuff like inverse kinematics and things like that? Can we put that under animation as well?
Sure. The Unity Animator, for example, has an IK pass. You can just combine it. It's not too hard.
I don't know. I just said things to make me sound smart. Did I sound smart?
You've sounded very smart.
I'm happy now.
The smartest Marnix in Bite Me Games.
Nice. I'm also the only one. So for animating, I think also there's a lot of free resources. I think once again, this is one of those things that probably like sound design you want to do in like week 2 of your prototype tops. Like it's very funny, devlog style of like, here is the bean and here is a guy T-posing and whatever. He is the almighty T-poser, all hail to him. I've watched too many devlogs, I'm sorry. Just throw animations on it. Like in real life, your players and your playtesters, they do not want to watch T-poses. Just put an bean or whatever. Just put idle animations on it. Just throw in a character in it. I think that is by far the better move to do here. It's important though, to a certain degree. I would put it at a C tier. I think this is one of those things that honestly, it's not the end of the world, but it's also like, I don't know.
C is fine.
If you talk to me about animation, my response is just going to be a meh. So, and a meh is for me a C tier.
Yeah, I can live with a C. The thing is, it's definitely more important than lore because it's more applicable to more games.
More games, more developers, things like that. And I think, yeah, you can have games without lore, but I think you do need some animation for every game still, at least.
Yeah. Even if it's basic like Unicycle Pizza.
The animations and the ragdolls kind of still did a lot for that game, but it's like...
Meh.
Yeah. Next up, you were asking earlier with the Mr. Beast. This one is becoming the YouTuber, making the devlogs, the dev updates, the TikTok dances and whatever. So this is content marketing, kind of where you, the developer, are going to be making your own content versus getting other YouTubers to play your game.
I never was that big of a fan of it. I think it's fun to do. I think making a devlog is fun, is what I mean.
Oh yeah, you are.
But I don't have to edit it, so it's not my problem. But I also think we've been doing this for like 3 years. This is the worst time you can ask probably for Marnix and me after the backlash we had on Magical Girl Guardians. And one of the things we learned, and we said a lot of times on stream already, is you are probably different, like the audience watching this is probably different than the people buying our games. We have our core people on YouTube, sure, our diehard fans who buy the game to support us. But a lot of people watch you and don't buy the game. You put so much effort into a devlog and you probably get next to nothing out of it.
Okay, but
unless you go viral.
Yeah, but are we talking now, like what style of devlog are you talking about?
I don't think it matters.
No, because that is a thing, like where, for example, Choo Charles is like, yeah, of course, devlogs, when you make them at other developers and you talk about the code, yeah, developers are gonna watch it. Just make your devlogs aimed at general, normal people. I think one, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
You do not have the on-screen presence and talent to make it be fun and interesting and engaging. I think that is one thing. I think the second thing is, yeah, it takes an immense amount of time to do it yourself. I think with reels and short form content, I can still approve of you doing it because it takes much less time to make a reel, or it makes a short and whatever. And you still can have some virality impact. Yeah, conversion rate is a bit lower, but conversion rate is already super low in general. The other approach, of course, and I made a video over there, I feel like this is the third video or something I talked about, is using devlogs as a stream of income. Where, you know, if you have a successful devlog 0 and a devlog 1, and then it's like, okay, the third devlog, okay, I need to get more views, rewriting my entire engine from scratch. And then from then on, you can kind of get the ball rolling with like the brilliant sponsorships and whatever, if you can't sustainably pull in those views. But it's like, you're not making a game at that point anymore. You're an entertainer, and I think accept that to a certain degree.
I think it's with this is...
It can be fun though.
It can be fun.
You like it.
But I also think it's a very risky play. You put so much effort into it. You already have such volatility with your game. You're also going to put so much effort and get volatility back in a YouTube channel. Because of course, if you blow up, great, but a lot of people don't blow up. And you don't see that part, but there are people that spent like a month working on a devlog, got 200 views, which equated to 1 or 2 wish lists, which equates to 0 sales.
I think what is important as well is that this is once again like the survivorship bias as well.
Yeah.
You see, like I was recently looking at like, there's this Belgian game right now, and they made a devlog and they got 40,000 wish lists from it. And it's like, yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But like, how many devlogs do you think are out there that get barely over like 1,000, 5,000 views? Let alone that conversion rate to wish lists then as well. It's not like I'm gonna make a devlog and your marketing is immediately gonna be done. It's something that takes a lot of time, it needs to be well produced, it needs to be well edited, all of that. You probably don't have enough skills and technical chops and know-how for that to happen. I would put it at the D tier, or maybe even...
Sure, D tier is fine.
Because I think
it's still
short form content, try it at least. Short form content you can try, it's much easier to crank out a lot and improve rapidly.
And you can post it on a lot of different platforms, Shorts, Instagram, TikTok, whatever.
Yeah, it's just devlogs themselves, like long form content, I would stay away from that. Next up, we have community management.
What community?
Running a Discord server for your game, having playtesters, having, you know, all of that.
What community?
Yeah, I think that's the case for 99% of our audience. It's like, should I have a Discord server for my studio? And it's like...
We made a Discord server after we had like 10 or 15k subs.
But I think no, I think we had more. No, we had a Discord server when I went to Gameforce.
How many subs do we have now?
200.
Okay.
But that was when we made that Discord server, it was truly for people interested in the game, remember?
Yeah, true.
I think, forget about the YouTube part for us right now. Let's think about, okay, I am making a game, I am Beaverbutt Studios, and I am going to make the Beaverbutt Studios Discord, and it's going to be super awesome. Yeah. The problem is right now you probably don't have a game yet, which means that your friends are going to join, and then the server is going to go radio silent. And reviving that Discord server is definitely not easy.
The thing is, it can be good to have like one hub to get feedback, for example, or see bug fixes, other things
it's
people
much
experience.
So
that's nice, but if you do it for anything else, then that I think it really falls off.
I think you should only worry about starting a Discord the moment you have a playable build of your game.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have anything playable yet, if it's just like, oh, I have a store page and I have a Blue Sky account and everyone join my Discord, whatever, you're doing things wrong.
Yeah, I thought that was a given. Whoops.
It isn't. Because that is the advantage of being like the Discord fan base, your community, usually are your true fans. Those are the ones that you can probably genuinely ask on the moment the game releases, hey, can you give me a review right now at 0.1 hours? Because it would really help me out a lot for the Steam algorithm. Those are the diehard homies, and you want to have the diehard homies. The problem is building up those diehard homies, you need to have stuff to show to them first. And I think that is an issue that a lot of developers has, is making something cool enough to begin with. And I think like the entire community management stuff is also like, don't kid yourself, you don't need to have a TikTok to do community management and an Instagram account and like send DMs to other people and have a Twitter and a Blue Sky and a Steam page and a forum and whatever. I think just having a Discord is honestly fine. That's why I put the Discord on here. Discord is going to be the main platform that I think you should be using for all of this.
So where would you put this?
I think you should always have one by the time your game releases though.
Yeah, you should have one because like we said, it's good to get feedback and so on.
I would put it a B+, maybe.
B+? B minus?
B minus? I think also one big trap is once you have some people talking in the Discord, it's like, I'm always reading the Discord. You need to compartmentalize like the Discord and your players versus like your new e-friends and you're just talking with them all day versus actually working on your game. That is a big trap where it can feel like you're productive because it's like, oh, I was talking with the community and interacting and I was liking posts on Blue Sky, it was research for community building, whatever. And then it's like, but you didn't do any work. I'll go with B-.
Hey, we win. And last but maybe least, I mean, we're gonna figure out in a couple of minutes, I guess, is post-launch support. You just launched your game, you pressed that beautiful big green button on Steam.
And it's not over.
And it's not over, no.
Oh no.
Their journey has just begun.
Strap in, baby. The good news is, you probably don't have to deal with this if you have 4 people buying your game. Woo! Post-launch support is something that is important. Once you have that initial small volume of people playing the game, the question is, how much do you want to keep developing the game as well? Are you releasing the game because you're sick and tired of it, or are you releasing the game because you feel like it's in a good state, but it's like, hey, I have these ideas for more content or whatever, but I'm not really certain about it. It's not like an early access, but it's more of, you know, for Unicycle Pizza Time, for example, it's like, we want to add an extra map. It's like, you don't want to charge a DLC for that, it's just an extra update, because
it's like, hey,
you can get
kind of
maybe
exceeded expectations, let's do something back for the community.
Yeah, and you can maybe get some more visibility for it, because you can do a new marketing round, you can do some new influencer round, you can, like, people will talk about your game and be like, hey, it's actually really cool that the developers listen and they patch out the broken stuff, they fix what we complained about. Like, of course, in an ideal world, you'll have beautifully playtested your entire game 15,000 times and there's nothing wrong with it, but probably there is. Fixing those things in a timely manner, responding to feedback questions, for example, being active in your Discord, and all of that is part of post-launch support, dealing with tech support questions. People will send you emails of like, what if we could add this feature and whatever to the game? This is if you are in the privileged position that you have enough of an audience that they actually care about updates. I think it's really nice. Oh, funny story, I got an email recently because, like, you know, a lot of you viewers, you sent me like emails as if I'm like press. I got an email from a game that released in 2016 of like, our yearly content update is here 9 years later, and they added like an extra map and whatever.
Dedication.
The game had like 4 reviews. Ooh. I think at a certain point you need to
call it quits.
Do we do this? I think we did this before we start like fully developing the game. We're like, what is like the success criteria for a game? Like, when would we consider porting to console? When would we from what point does it make sense to spend more time in it? Because if 4 people buy our game, it doesn't make sense to do a post-launch update where we have a Switch release, or to have more levels and have this whole roadmap. And this is just internally. We don't communicate this outside because it's kind of, you don't want to, things can change, plans can change, whatever. If you are in a position where post-launch support is actually something that you have to consider, I think it's beautiful and you should do it for like a year. At some point you need to accept that games need to move on, and that it is perfectly normal, especially like for certain genres. Like, people don't want to play your game for 5,000 hours. Like, you see this more in like 4X games and whatever, and deep games that you want to do more and more post-launch updates, but it's kind of just like an extended early access then. Yeah. But I think always calculate the first 3 months after your game's release. Don't immediately start a new game, but look at improving the current game. Because even if you do a lot of playtesting, you're still going to get feedback and all of that.
Yeah, even if it's just bug fixing. Just do something. I think it's also pretty fun because usually you get feedback.
You get feedback, people like the game. I think that's a big thing. You're not working alone in your cave anymore. You're working with your player base, and the fact that, hey, they're talking about you means that you're doing something good, that you're giving a good experience to them. I would put it at an A tier.
I would put it B+, so.
A-?
That's basically the same, it's just somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's gonna be right here. And that concludes the tier list. I think, did we make any big mistakes? I feel like I stand by this tier list.
Yeah, it seems pretty alright to me.
So, yeah. I'm curious, how many more fuck-ups do you think we've done? I think this is gonna be the final installment, because I think we're at like 18 different aspects now of game dev. You could probably still dive deeper into it, but I think we've done enough for this. So let me know your thoughts. What of these things do you really enjoy? Do you absolutely love lore, and do you think it should be an S+ tier? Do you hate talking to influencers and whatever? Leave me a comment down below. I want to know more about what are your struggles and successes with game development. Apart from that, if you're new here, we make 2 videos every week talking about the things that we've been learning along the way for making our own games. If that's something that you're interested in, be sure to head down below and subscribe. It makes me happy. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!